Genghis Khan was an illiterate nomad who rose to power and became one of the greatest conquerors in history. This book tells the story of his success, from his childhood outcast status to his rise as Genghis Khan and the leader of the Mongol people. It covers topics such as Mongol culture, ideology, religion, and warfare, and provides an accurate and engaging account of one of the most powerful figures ever to have lived. Harun al-Rashid's Baghdad was an important city in the Islamic world, and had grown to become the largest in the world by the 13th century. Despite its grandeur, it was known for being plagued by famine, fire, and flood. In 1257, the Mongol ruler Hulagu threatened to attack the city. Al-Musta'sim, the caliph at the time, tried to buy his way out of danger with gold, but Hulagu refused and demanded a surrender instead. After a siege lasting 6 days, the city was sacked and most of it destroyed. The House of Wisdom was particularly devastated, and many books were thrown into the Tigris River, turning it black with ink. Al-Musta'sim was executed, as well as 700 members of the elite. Central Asia is home to various terrains, including the steppe, which stretches from Hungary to Manchuria and is divided into 3 layers. The Gobi Desert comprises 1/3 of Mongolia's area and is not a true desert, as its surface can be grassy, sandy, pitted with scree or boulders, or striated with salt marshes. Mongolia is essentially a plateau with a harsh climate and lack of water, and Lake Baikal in the north is the area's main reservoir. The Onan River is the most favored area in eastern Mongolia and is where Genghis Khan was born. The Karelen River is the 9th longest river in the world, rising on the south slopes of the Kendi Mountains and flowing through the eastern Mongolian steppes into China and emptying into Lake Huluen. The Onan Forest is a kind of oasis in the midst of the steppes, with a plethora of trees such as wild cherry, dog rose, currant, hawthorn, poplar, birch, elm, wild apple, Siberian apricot, willow, ash, buckthorn, Russian ash, juniper, walnut, acer, and pistachio. The climate of Mongolia is unsuitable for significant agriculture, and its people are mainly nomadic pastoralists who herd 5 different types of animals: sheep, goats, cattle, horses, and camels. The Mongols prized animals such as horses, camels, wolves, big cats, small game, rodents, snakes, and birds. Horses were the most important animal, as they allowed the Mongols to conquer the steppes and travel great distances. They had 3 remounts which they rotated every 2 hours to prevent exhaustion. Travelers' tales describe a variety of avian predators such as eagles, vultures, hawks, and owls. Mongol sources, however, are silent on the topic. The physical appearance of the Mongols often shocked Europeans and Western Asians who met them. A Franciscan monk described them as short of stature and slim, with prominent cheekbones, and a hairstyle that is a mix of Christian and Saracen. European chroniclers complained that Mongol women were unisex and ugly, yet they also noted their different clothing. Food and drink among the Mongols before Genghis Khan was largely dependent on milk and meat, and they were omnivorous. It was alleged that the Mongols ate human flesh, though there is only one authenticated case. The Mongol tribe originated from a mating between a male blue-gray wolf and a fallow deer, which produced a sole human male child named Batachikan. The Mongols were first mentioned in texts of the Tang dynasty of China in the 9th century, and during the succeeding Liao dynasty were reliable allies of the Chinese emperor. Kaidu, the first ruler of a fully united Mongol tribe, switched the Mongol economy from limited pastoralism and agriculture to full-blooded pastoralism. During the 12th century, the Mongols were caught in a precarious situation between the Jin Empire and China and their own intertribal feuds. The Jin sought to use the Tartars as their secret weapon against the Mongols, and Kabul managed to form a temporary coalition of the principal Mongol tribes. The Mongol Empire was established by Kabul Khan in the 11th century. His son, Amagat Khan, and grandson, Kuchula Khan, continued to lead the empire, but were unable to stop the Tartars and Jin from attacking them. Kuchula's successor, Yasuji, allied himself with the Karaite leader Togrul in a foolish move which started a feud between the Mongols and Merkits. Yasuji then abducted Holun, the future mother of Genghis Khan, and their son Temujin was born in 1162. He was brought up in the traditional way, learning to ride and hunt, and at 9 was betrothed to an Angurad girl. The traditional meeting place of the Mongols and the Angurad was between Mount Chegchur and Mount Chikurgu. Yasuji had proposed marrying his son Temujin to the daughter of the Bozkır leader Dai Sechin, but he only offered a single horse as a down payment. Although Dai Sechin was reluctant to let Temujin go, he allowed him to depart for the river Onan. After Yasuji's death, the issue of succession flared up again, and Holun's family were reduced to poverty. Belgudai and Khazar were taking catches away from Temujin and his brothers, leading to Bektar's murder by Temujin. Targatai of the Taykid thought the best solution would be to take Temujin out of the power equation by enslaving him. Genghis Khan was born in the early 12th century and endured many hardships in his life. He was captured at an early age but managed to escape, thanks to a friend named Borshu. He then began to build up his strength and recruited warriors to fight against the Merkid who had abducted his future wife Borte. Togrul, who was his father's Anda, agreed to help him in the war and provided him with resources. After a long campaign, the Merkid were defeated and Borte was recovered. She was pregnant with the child of Chiljaboko, and Temujin accepted the child as his own, naming him Joki. During this time, he was also reunited with his childhood friend Jamuga. From the moment Jamuga, a childhood friend of Temujin, returned to the Mongolian steppes after a period in captivity, he and Temujin were locked in a struggle for power. Jamuga had the support of many of the traditional clans, while Temujin's success lay with the younger generations who wanted to break away from the old tribal structures. Both men were adept strategists, and they both managed to gather large numbers of warriors to their cause before finally facing off against each other. In 1186, Temujin was elected Khan of the Borjigid clan and the two sides clashed. In the end, Temujin emerged victorious and Jamuga was forced to flee. Temujin's victory allowed him to unite all of the Mongolian tribes under his banner, beginning the process that would eventually lead to the establishment of the Mongol Empire. Despite no other claimant to the Khanate did, Togrul formally endorsed it. Temujin was the first Khan to have gained the purple by an unconventional route, and was very popular because he had enriched his followers with herds and other booty. In 1186, Jamuga's brother Taichar stole horses from Temujin's friend Jokidar Mala, who retaliated by shooting him dead with an arrow. This started a war between the Borjigid and Jamuga, which resulted in a victory for Jamuga but was a Pyrrhic one. Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, was a skilled and ambitious military leader. His rise to power began in 1196 when he was elected Khan of the Mongol coalition. He quickly gained support from other tribes by offering them protection and stability. However, his ambitions soon brought him into conflict with other powerful figures on the steppes, including Sasha Beki and Togrul of the Karaite. In 1198, Temujin successfully defeated Birik of the Nayman, but Togrul's subsequent desertion during battle caused great losses for the Karaite and angered Temujin. In 1200, Temujin heavily defeated the Merkid and Taykid coalition, which was led by Jamuga and aimed to prevent Temujin from gaining more power. Temujin, a Mongol leader, fought an important battle against Jamuga and his allies at Koyatan in 1201. Temujin issued a strict order that there was to be no looting during the battle. Despite this, Altan and Kukar broke off and did exactly that, prompting Temujin to retaliate with confiscation. After the Battle of Koyatan, Temujin added the Tartar princesses Yesui and Yasujin to his roster of wives. The winter of 1202 to 2003 saw Temujin and Togrul facing yet another Nayman coalition led by Birik. Temujin's powerful army searched relentlessly for the Tartars and finally brought them to bay at Dal and Nemerges, near the Kalka River in eastern Mongolia. Temujin's marriage proposal to Togrul has divided commentators. Some think it was politically foolish, while others claim that Temujin was testing the waters to see what value his entente with his father really had. Borte was the mastermind behind this episode, carefully advising her lord and rehearsing her points cogently and lucidly. Togrul invited Temujin to a great banquet he was preparing, but Temujin decided not to press onto the feast and sent 2 envoys in his place. However, Temujin was soon alerted of an assassination plot against him and had to prepare for an imminent assault from Togo's coalition army. Temujin led his forces to the Chinese border, hoping to acquire fresh allies and weapons and, maybe, help from the Jin. Temujin, the future Genghis Khan, defeated the Karaite people in 1204 with the help of his brothers, allies, and a brilliant strategy. He used trickery to gain an advantage, such as sending false messages from his brother Khazar to their enemies, and then attacking them when they were off guard. His army was highly disciplined and led by talented commanders, which gave them an edge over the Karaite forces. The Karaite had greater numbers and resources, but they lacked leadership and organization. Temujin also made use of intelligence and espionage to gain an advantage. After defeating the Karaite, he then faced the formidable Nayman forces, but he was eventually victorious due to his clever strategy and his strong army. In 1204, Temujin and the Mongol army conquered the Nayman, led by Taiyang. This took place in a long campaign of hide-and-seek, leading to a battle at Chakraman at the foot of Mount Naku. The Nayman were defeated due to the defection of Jamuga and his host, who had been one of their allies. Temujin was praised for his brilliance on the battlefield, and the Nayman were offered terms as an honored enemy if they surrendered, but they refused. After the victory, Gerbisu was taken as one of Temujin's concubines, while Tatatanga, the keeper of Taiyang's Great Seal, was appointed as the keeper of a new Mongol seal. In 1205, Temujin executed Jamuga, his double agent, as a way of protecting his credibility. He then called for a Kurultai in 1206 and was sworn in as Genghis Khan. He gave rewards to his most faithful followers and began the process of reorganizing and administrating his new empire. The Mongol Empire of Genghis Khan in 1206 was a watershed event, leading to the establishment of a new state never seen before. At this time, Genghis issued decrees rewarding his closest friends and followers for their loyalty and service, giving them titles of power and granting them exemptions from punishments. He also established his inner cabinet, the 9 paladins, who were given special privileges and authority. To ensure loyalty to himself, Genghis created the Tuman and Kashik system, which broke down the old tribal, clan, and regional loyalties and replaced them with loyalty to the Khan. Under this system, all males from 15 to 70 were required to serve in military units, and those leading these units were chosen based on merit and not lineage. Genghis Khan carried out a reorganization similar to the reforms of Cleisthenes at Athens in the 6th century BC. He broke up the old clan system, replaced it with 10 new tribes based on residence or demi, and replaced patronymics with demonymics. He also formed 30 treaties, which combined the demes into 3 distinct regions: city, coastal, and inland. In order to maintain control, Genghis created his own version of a Praetorian Guard, the Kashik. This 10,000-strong force was made up of sons from powerful men, who were taken as hostages and trained in loyalty to the Khan alone. To appease his sons, Genghis granted them appanage, lands and money, but this eventually led to conflict and further weakened the system he had built. The Kashid was used by Genghis Khan to remind his sons that he was the ultimate boss. If sons misbehaved, they could be summoned to appear before the Mongol assembly, led by Belgudiyai and presided over by Genghis himself. However, many of the freedoms granted to the appanage were in conflict with the ethos that the empire belonged to the entire extended royal family. To address this issue, Genghis reduced the number of troops assigned to his family from 44,500 to 28,000. In 1207 to 2008, a crisis arose when Genghis's chief shaman Teb Tenjeri began plotting to displace him. The Yasa of Genghis Khan was a legal code created by Genghis Khan to promote organic solidarity among his new Mongol nation and break down the old cultures and ways of thinking. The code does not survive in a written form, with only fragments extant, leading to skepticism as to whether it ever existed in a written form or if it had a reality beyond Genghis Khan's personal maxims. On closer examination, it is clear that the Yasa did exist, with its provisions covering military service, taxation, administration, and status of the Khan and his families. There were also religious exemptions for clergy, artisans, merchants, and other groups, as well as strict regulations on lost property and stray animals. Genghis Khan's Great Yasa was a code of law that laid down many rules and punishments for the Mongol people. It was both an instrument of arbitrary government and a device to ensure aristocratic hegemony, but it also incorporated many elements of traditional steppe culture and popular religious beliefs. Genghis Khan reorganized his army in the Great Yasa to prepare for the conquest of the Jin Empire of northern China. He set up a Kashik, or bodyguard of 10,000 men, which was divided into 4 shifts and had their own espionage corps. He also created an elite within the elite, analogous to Xerxes' immortals in the Persian Wars or Napoleon's later Old Guard. Genghis changed the rules governing the Tumans and made sure that each commander had a son as a lieutenant, together with 1 other kinsman and 10 trusted companions. He also trained the Tumans in being an occupying force, so they could form an officiatama or garrison. The Mongols were famous for their archery and horsemanship, which allowed them to be formidable in battle. They carried 3 types of arrows: short-range shafts for tigers, bears and bucks, light ones with small, sharp points for long-range shooting and pursuit, and heavy ones with large, broad heads for close-quarter engagement, and whistling arrows used for signaling. The horses fed on grass and water once a day and could cover 600 miles in 9 days. Genghis was known for his unpredictable strategy and use of espionage and disinformation. He had a great military organization with scouts, communication by flags, trumpets and lanterns, and iron rations of kumis, cured meat and curdled milk. The campaigns of 1206 to 1218 by Genghis Khan and his Mongol Empire are complex and confusing. To simplify, these campaigns can be reduced to 5 main motifs: settling accounts with the Naiman, dealing with the Merkid, subjugating and revolting against the forest peoples, gaining allegiance of the Uyghurs, and waging war against the Tangut. During this time, Joki was sent to secure submission of the independent tribes of northern Mongolia and southern Siberia, which he successfully did. However, a revolt broke out in 1217 when Korchi asked for 30 beautiful tongued women as part of a reward. Genghis put Joki in charge of a huge force to quell the rebellion, and he succeeded with the help of Dorbi Dakshin. In the early 13th century, the Uyghurs were a highly cultured people, with an alphabet, literate culture, and interest in trade and commerce. They had been forced to accept as suzerain the western state of Karakaitai, but their discontent led them to switch their allegiance to the Mongols in 1209. Genghis Khan was impressed by the caliber of the Uyghurs and welcomed them into his service, granting them privileges and intermarrying with them. They provided the Mongols with many skills which allowed them to properly administrate sedentary populations without chaos. Before invading China, Genghis also went to war with the Tangut, a kingdom of more than 3 million inhabitants located in modern Gansu and Ningxia provinces of China. Genghis Khan was an impressive political leader and military strategist who successfully created a world empire. He had many positive qualities, such as his administrative talent and his ability to read people and human psychology. He was also incredibly influential in his efforts to bring peace between the Mongols and the Xixiao people, negotiating a peace treaty and securing tribute in return for leaving them alone. However, he also had some less desirable traits, such as ingratitude, paranoia, and rage. He often exhibited cowardice in dangerous situations and could be ruthless when dealing with those he suspected of treachery. Ultimately, it is clear that Genghis Khan was a complex man with both admirable and questionable qualities. Genghis Khan was a ruthless, practical, and pragmatic leader with an obsession for war and conquest. He was unscrupulous in his pursuit of power, energetic, discerning, shrewd, charismatic, awe-inspiring, just, resolute, intrepid, implacable, sanguinary, cruel but generous to those he favored. He was tolerant of any ritual or belief system that might help him achieve his goals, and he was above all conventional religions as he was his own shaman. His attitude towards religion was one of cash value. Did it help acquire food, win battles, enable one to live a long and happy life, or even attain immortality? He was therefore tolerant of any ritual or belief system that might enable him to attain these things.